I cannot afford to leave this job. This is for Black women in toxic jobs. If you really want to leave your job, but you feel that you cannot afford to leave this job, I've heard this from so many Black women that they really want to leave the toxic job, but they feel stuck with being at that toxic job because of the concerns about how are they going to pay their bills, how are they going to replace their income and their benefits. So we're going to have a very real talk conversation about bills and finances and what are we going to do? What are you going to do about if you really want to leave that job, but you got bills to pay? What are you going to do about that? And I know about that because I was in that same situation. I was stuck at a toxic job that I really could not stand, but I was stuck. I was stuck for a long time because of my fears of how I was going to replace my income. So we are in for a special treat today because I am here with Dr. Rosché Brown, who is a financial psychologist. She's also a clinical psychologist like me, but she is the same financial psychologist whom I work with to get my financial exit plan together. So when I was at that toxic job and I didn't know what to do, I was feeling stuck, but I knew I had to get out of that toxic job. And I also knew that I had issues with money. I knew that I had some money traumas. And I said, you know what? If the money issues is keeping me stuck at this toxic job, I need to work with somebody who can help me get unstuck. So that's when I started working with Dr. Rosché, and she helped me get a financial exit plan together. And so this is really a full circle moment for me working with her and collaborating with her and doing projects with her so that I can help other Black women liberate themselves from a toxic job in terms of financial exit plans. So I'm so excited to have Dr. Rosché Brown here with us today. If you don't know me already, I'm Dr. Kamani. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, toxic job survivor, but more importantly, I'm a toxic job liberator for Black women. I'm also the co-founder with Marissa Price of the Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black Women. We have the replays, the 2025 replays available in the description section of this video. If you want to get the replays, you can go in the description section of my YouTube video to get the replay. And also, we have the waiting list open for the 2026 Virtual Summit. So again, so excited to have Dr. Rosché Brown here with us today. And Dr. Rosché, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes. Well, hello, Dr. Kamani. Thank you for having me. Hello, community. I am Dr. Rosché Brown. I am also known as the Doctor of Rethinking because I help people to remix their thinking so they can make money, they can manage their money, and they can multiply their money. And I am a licensed clinical psychologist, like Dr. Kamani said, but I'm now actually a financial psychologist. For the last 9 to 10 years, I have been focused on like money mindset, right? Like what do we need to do to change our money mindset, but also giving practical skills. Like what do I actually do to take this next step to get my finances in order, right?
Yeah.
You want to leave your job.
Yes, 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 yes. And, many of us say, well, I'm not good with money. I don't want to talk about money. But why is it important for us to talk about money and not avoid talking about money? Because, sometimes money makes us nervous or anxious, so we try to avoid it. Why do we need to talk about money?
So, I mean, it's so important. For one thing, like I know that anything that is new to us, uncommon, unfamiliar, feels scary, right? But if we're trying to shift and we're trying to change, we have to do something different, right?
True.
Because and so that means that we have to kind of push through some levels of anxiety to actually look at the numbers. And when you actually look at the numbers, it actually becomes freeing, right? Because your anxiety about how bad things are is always worse than the actual situation, right?
Yeah.
And so when you get the opportunity to look at it, you're like, oh, well, maybe I do have options, right? I don't have to feel obligated or feel stuck at this job now that I know that the number is just this. I could do this, right? And so I think it's really important for us to, push through the anxiety. It doesn't mean the anxiety is not going to be there. We're going to have it because anytime we're trying to shift and go to the next level, anxiety is part of that change, right?
True.
So you have to just embrace it. But when you look at it, you'll just feel more free knowing what you can do, knowing that it's possible to make a change.
True. How many of us have avoided looking at money, right? Looking at our statements. That used to be me.
Yes.
And so for me, I said, I need somebody to hold me accountable, right? So working with you help me to help me to be accountable to looking at my money. So
Right.
when you think about Black women right now, so many Black women are, really experiencing a lot of trauma and a lot of fear right now with things. So many Black women being laid off, over
Mhm.
300,000 Black women being laid off over the past few months, and
Mhm.
just the instability in the job market. So many Black women are very unhappy with their jobs in
Mhm.
general, particularly if
Yeah.
you're in a toxic job. And then you're witnessing all these Black women being laid off from the job market and just that unstable, like, this is going to happen to me.
Mhm.
Can you talk about some of the signs that Black women might be experiencing, or some of the costs of being in a job, and how that may impact you in terms of the financial and the emotional cost of being in a toxic job?
Yeah, I think so it's twofold, right? Like, what are some signs and symptoms of that? And then like, what are the costs of still sticking there? So I think, early signs I think is very important. I mean, a lot of us know like, hey, this feels toxic, right? When you're
Right.
feeling more anxious and not really motivated to go to work, that's a sign.
Yeah.
Like, hey, like this is not a good place, especially when maybe this place used to give you excitement. Remember when you first got the job, you felt that this was a good place, it was a good environment, but now
Mhm.
you're feeling anxious about that, right? I love the fact that you always have your lives on Sunday nights, right? So we
Right.
always talk about the Sunday night, dread,
Sunday
like
scaries.
yeah, Sunday scaries, right? So and Monday's on its way. That's
Mhm.
another sign that clearly I'm not in a good place. I don't want to be here, right? And
Right.
but another big thing is you may be earning money, but you're losing peace, right? Like so
Mhm.
you got money coming in, but you're losing peace, you're losing
Mhm.
sleep, right? You're losing your level of joy. You may be feeling,
Mhm.
other psychological symptoms of, depression and anxiety
Mhm.
coming
Mhm.
over you. It may be affecting your family because you're not your full and total self as
Mhm.
well because you've given so much to this job. So I think
Mhm.
those are like those signs that hey, something here is not right, right?
Mhm.
And I think we want to listen to those signs, even if it's like a little bit of sign, versus some
Mhm.
of us who've been in it for a long time and like, hey, now it's time to go, right? I
Mhm.
think if you really have early signs and you're paying attention, you have a little bit more options to go ahead and get more prepared, right? So right when you feel it, start to tell yourself, hey, let me start thinking about something different, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, but there are also costs of staying at a job, right? And so it could be excuse me, increase in medical costs, right? You're going to the
True.
doctors way more
True.
frequently than you need to be going, right?
True. The job is
Um,
making you sick. The
it's
stress.
keeping you sick, right? Like all the stress that you're experiencing, how you cope, right, with your symptoms, right? So maybe
Mhm.
your retail therapy, so now your money is getting like tied into your psychological experience,
Mhm.
right? So because you're retail therapy shopping all the time, kind
Mhm.
of numbing yourself out in that kind of way. So maybe you TikTok shopping, maybe Amazon shopping, you just like blah 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 blah, just buying stuff, right? It also
Mhm.
could be maybe there's a vice that you have. Maybe you're drinking a lot more than you used to
Mhm.
drink, right? Trying to numb yourself. Maybe you're eating, right? Overeating, so,
Mhm.
or maybe not even having time, right? So you don't have time to cook because you're just so focused on what's going on at that job. So now you're eating a lot more fast food, and that's
Mhm.
like leading to other health issues as well, right?
Mhm.
So I think
Mhm.
a lot of those things are the cost, or even like I was saying, their family relationships, your partnership. If
Right.
you the only conversation you have is talking and complaining about these people,
Right.
right? That's not a good quality relationship or even quality parenting or anything if that's
Right.
all you got to talk about.
Right.
Those are some
Everybody,
costs.
all your friends and family know about the people at the job. They know
Yes,
about name.
exactly. That a lot of them probably avoiding your call, like she probably just gonna be complaining about that job, right? They don't even feel like you don't even bring no excitement, no joy to their lives. All you got is negativity and complaints. Then that's a problem.
Exactly, exactly. And I was even thinking about, as Black women, I think many of us present that we have it together. Okay. So we
Mhm,
present as very confident, but we also look really good in the
mhm,
workplace. And I think that might be another cost, is that
mhm.
we are spending a lot of money and pretending like we have it all together,
Yeah.
and even maybe spending even extra, like the masking, like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna look good,
Right.
coming up in this spot, right? I'm gonna look good. You're gonna make me, what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna look really good, and you're gonna look at me and think, but we're
Yeah.
digging ourselves into a deeper financial hole because
Yeah.
these people are treating us in a disrespectful way. But it's
Hmm.
like we're trying to overcompensate for something,
Yes.
right?
True.
In
True.
terms of being in a toxic environment.
Yes. Yeah. I think
Yeah,
that's a big
yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah. So when we think about, the comments that we say to ourselves, right? Because when we think
Hmm.
about the messaging that we say to ourselves, because when
Hmm.
I think about when I was in that toxic environment, the more I would say to myself, I can't afford to leave.
Hmm.
I can't replace my income,
Hmm.
right? That was all fear based. It was
Hmm.
not reality based at all because I
Yeah.
had no data. There was no
Yeah.
data that
Yeah.
showed me that I could not replace my income. I
Yeah.
hadn't even checked. I
Right.
had not
Exactly. Yeah.
that was
Exactly.
just me in my mind thinking,
Yes.
right? Which is not
Hmm.
even rational because I had
Yes.
a whole license, I had a whole
Yes. Right.
PhD, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
But can we speak a little bit to that? That
Hmm.
when we keep saying, I can't afford to leave, I can't afford to leave, I got bills, da da da, I
Hmm.
can't do that. When we keep saying that to ourselves
Hmm.
without any type of research or any type
Hmm.
of exploration, how that
Hmm.
keeps us more stuck in that
Yeah.
environment.
Yeah. So, you may have heard of the statement before, and there's a statement that says, like, whatever you focus on expands,
Right.
right? And so, if like your focus statement is, I can't afford to leave this job, what your
Right.
mind does is finds evidence to support what you said, right? So it's
Uh-huh.
going to only look for how you can't do it, how you can't do it,
Right.
right?
Right.
And that's when we think about anxiety anyway, that anxiety is irrational fears, often telling us the worst case scenario situations, right?
Mhm.
And it's not in fact based, it's more fear based, right? And so why it's important that in this moment that if you hear yourself saying that you catch yourself, right? You do a mindful pause and say, hold on, is this true? Right? Is
Mhm.
this true? Because I think we speak to ourselves all the time, but we don't actually like fact check ourselves, right? Like you need to check yourself sometime. Like, but is that true? Is that a true thought? Just because I have it all the
Mhm.
time doesn't mean that it's true,
Mhm.
right? And so once you kind of catch yourself, now you can decide, okay, well, what if I said I could afford to leave? Right? What will now that'll expand your ability to think in a different way. So like, okay, well, what do I need to know in order to leave? So now you
Mhm.
have you're asking yourself better quality questions, right? You're figuring out what are the other supports you may need, like who could support me? Oh, I need accountability. Okay, well, hey, there's these two women that are talking about accountability. I need more knowledge to figure out how to get my finances in order. So maybe I need to go into a course. So now you're like starting to think in a different way, that helps
Mhm.
you get the support you actually need, right?
Mhm.
But when we are saying like the wrong things to ourselves, we stay in a stuck place, right? I believe depression makes
Right.
you feel stuck. Like there's like you get very
Yeah.
narrow minded on one way of
That tunnel
thinking,
vision.
and you're not able to see that there's so many other possibilities that are
Right.
available to you out there.
Exactly. Exactly. So, ladies, this is just a preview that we're going to be talking about the financial masterclass. Okay. So we're
Yeah.
talking about, ways that our mindset gets in the way when we start thinking about, I can't afford to leave this job
Mhm.
because these thoughts, our mindset makes us think there's no options. And so
Yeah.
what we're going to be talking about the financial masterclass, what we'll be talking about a little later is the financial masterclass talks options, but Dr. Rosché really walks us through or walks you through what are the specific things you need to do to create a financial exit plan. Okay. Because sometimes you're so overwhelmed, you don't even know where to start. I
Yeah.
don't even know where to start. What do I need
Yes.
to do? Right.
Yeah.
So the financial masterclass really walks you through the steps so you have a financial exit plan based upon when you're ready to leave a toxic job. So it may not be this month, this year, it may not be, but it's based upon when you want to go.
Yes.
Okay. So we're leading up to a conversation to talk about the financial masterclass. So just so you know that we're talking about something that will be able to help you.
Hmm.
Okay. So we're talking about the problem, but also leading you to what the solution will be too.
Yes.
Okay. So when we're talking about some of the things that we might do to self-medicate ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
but might dig ourselves in a deeper financial hole. You talked
Mm-hmm.
about retail therapy, you talked
Mm-hmm.
about door dashing.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that we can do or the listeners can do if they recognize that they're doing these behaviors? If they recognize that they had a rough day at work and then they end up buying stuff online, they end
Yeah.
up doing door dashing more
Yeah.
often. They feel like, oh, I deserve a treat because I,
Mm-hmm.
had a rough day at work. What can
Yeah.
they do to short circuit that so they don't
Mm-hmm.
keep falling into these patterns
Right.
of, getting into these financial holes?
Yeah. Well, in psychology, the number one thing is always going to be awareness. So the fact that
Sure.
you have the awareness, pat yourself on the back, like, okay,
Yeah.
because awareness is first key.
Yeah.
Second, I would say show yourself compassion for what you have already done,
True.
right? Because you have been in a hard place, right? And so
Right.
you only use what skills that you had to be able to work yourself through this, right? And
Right.
so I think sometimes when we find ourselves in a state of guilt and shame of we shouldn't have done this, we shouldn't have done that, it's hard to move
Yeah.
forward. So that's why, show yourself compassion for what you have done. But then now moving forward, now you're like, I want to make a change. I'm really big on more of like the harm reduction model versus the abstinent model. And so instead of saying, I'm never going to eat out the rest of this week, right? You're going to make a different choice, right? Like, cause that's like that. Sometimes I think we go to the extreme. We go from one extreme to the
Right.
other,
It
and then we
becomes
relapse.
punitive. It becomes like so punitive, and then we just give up, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So like, don't do that. Don't do that.
Right.
We want harm reduction, harm reduction.
Right.
So, so you notice that you've been eating out all 5 days that you work, right?
Right.
Maybe you can make a choice to say, you know what, I'm going to, only eat out 3 times this week, right? And then take a time to assess like what days might you do that. A lot of us like kind of understand our jobs in the, like, if you were to look at the week of your job, you're like, ooh, Mondays are always stressful because I have all these meetings. I got to talk to these managers that I don't like. Like, you kind of know that that's that day. So you
Right.
can give yourself permission to say, I'm going to eat out on this day, right? It may even
Okay.
be hard for you balancing work and family, right? So maybe that's also
Mhm.
the day that you got to go pick up your son from, I don't know, football practice and all that kind of stuff. So it's just a
Mhm.
long day. And it's just
Mhm.
hard for you to make any other choice but to maybe dine out, right?
Mhm.
So you might
Mhm.
want to go ahead and just do that on those days. But there's
Mhm.
other days that you can make a different choice, right?
Mhm.
And so you want to
Mhm.
be able to notice that, hey, this is an opportunity that I don't have to eat out, right? Or it can
Mhm.
even be for
Mhm.
the door dashers out there or the people who use like more convenient things, is that you may make a choice to say, I'm just going to go get the food, right? Because even the fees from like convenience is expensive, right? And so
Mm.
even if you can take off the fees from all of that convenience, that can also help, right? So we want to just find like small areas that can help us. You also want
Mhm.
to get support, right? And the support can be from different ways, right? So of course we're psychologists, so going to therapy could be an area, right? So you may check into your insurance to see
Mhm.
what therapy options are available for me, because I need to start talking through this, right, with
Right.
somebody and understanding. And oftentimes, things are always compounded. So it's not just the work that's stressing us out. It often is other things as well, right?
Mhm.
And so you might want to be able to tease those things out within therapy. So you may decide, hey, I'm going to get some extra support from that. But some of us have great
Mhm.
friendships. I often ask people like, how would you characterize your support system? Is it excellent, good, fair, poor? And oftentimes, some people will say, oh, it's good. I just don't use them.
Mm.
Right. So you have people who are available to like talk to you, and they have capacity to be able to hear you out and give you like, good advice. But, it could be for multiple reasons. Like, you may not want to burden people because we have our own identity about that. Like, I don't want to burden
Right.
people with my problems.
Right.
You decide not to share things with people. Sometimes we think they don't have the capacity, right? We make those judgments on people. But if you're in like
Mhm.
good friendships and you know that you've been there for other people, right?
Mhm.
There's a mutual exchange, right?
Mhm.
And that's real good friendships. It's going to be mutual. So some days you're going to be stronger than your friends, and some
Mhm.
days they're going to be stronger than you.
Mhm.
And you want to be able to lean on them in these tough times, right? As well,
True.
get like,
True.
support. So yeah.
True, true. And as you were talking, I was just thinking about, just the mindset issues that I think many of us have in relation to asking for help as Black women, because we're
Right.
often seen as the strong one, or
Yes.
strong Black woman, or all that. And so many times we don't want to, like you said, be a burden onto other people,
Right.
even though we listen to everybody else and we support everyone else,
Right.
which is, we want people to lean on to us, but it's hard
Yeah.
for us to kind of, right? So
Yeah.
kind of release some of that and recognize
Yeah.
that we can have reciprocal friendships. The
Right.
other thing is, I think the part about, there's a lot of guilt that I think a lot of us hold on to, a lot of guilt and shame
Yeah.
about money. Can we
Yes.
talk a little bit about, where do you think that comes from? And you've talked about this before too,
Yeah.
Dr. Rosché, about that we all have a money story. Can you talk a
Hmm.
little bit about that as well?
Yes.
And how does that inform our approach to money, our own money
Yeah.
story?
So we all have money models, right? People who were our models to money,
Yeah.
whether that was your mom, your dad, could have been a grandparent that you've seen, manage money in a particular way, right? And you
Mhm.
learn directly or indirectly from how they've been doing things, right?
True.
Good and bad, type of skills. So we learn some of those things from those money models. And
Mhm.
then we have different money experiences, even as you're young, right? You start to learn certain aspects, right? Maybe you ask for something that you really want and you're told to wait until the first, right? And
Mhm.
it shows your mind that, it's a delay to getting things, right?
Mhm.
It could be you overheard conversations of arguments between your parents because of like debt issues and different things. A big area for most people is like when people pass away, maybe big mama and them, the grandparents or something, where the had money, right, and then now the
Mhm.
family got torn apart because of
Mhm.
money issues. And so all of these things become part of our money, like traumas, right? Little trauma here and there,
Mhm.
you know. It could even been ourselves, right? So maybe you came into a lot of money and you didn't know what to do with it. So you've
Mhm.
made bad decisions probably in the past, right?
Mhm.
And so you've gotten yourself into debt. Maybe you notice yourself as you're in a cycle, right? You're like, hey, I get out of debt, I get back in debt. I get out of debt, I get back in debt. So you notice that that's a cycle that you have as well. And so those things start to create more of your guilt and shame because you start noticing your own money mistakes, right? I could have saved here and I didn't save, right? I could
Yeah.
have made this choice and I didn't make this choice, And so a lot of us have, more anxiety around money, more money avoidance, right? So we don't even check things that we should be checking. And then we get afraid that people are going to judge us because we're judging ourselves already. So
Mhm.
we never get ourselves out of it because we're so afraid of the judgment, that's going to come from, even maybe knowing better and still not doing better, right?
Mhm.
Some of us do that, right? We can know better and still sometimes make,
Right.
different choices, mainly because we don't slow ourselves down. I think a lot of us, we
Mhm.
just live. We're
Which, so
living
we're like
and
a survival mode.
yeah, you're in survival mode. So you don't
Yeah.
have enough time to just say, hey, stop. How do I want to make different changes in my life? How
Right.
might I
Right.
add those changes in my life?
Mhm.
And so it's really important for us all to give ourselves time.
Mhm.
And what I mean by that is like, giving yourself, whether you journal in a day or you just take 5 minutes to say, how do I feel about life right now? What am I grateful for? What are some things I would like to change? And just start to think about life. And then you can go out and get whatever support that you need because you've taken the time to think about it. And you're not just moving all the time.
Right.
You're able to just, figure out, what's the next steps.
Right. Right. And as you
Yeah.
said before, awareness is the first step in terms of healing. If, I'm aware of maybe patterns I've, had before with money, or I'm aware of, I learned these lessons before about money, I have a better understanding. And moving forward, I'm making different choices. So
Mhm.
practicing some degree of self forgiveness is important,
Yes.
right?
Please forgive yourself.
In terms of moving forward. But the shame and guilt, I think, contributes a lot to the avoidance.
Yes.
So we think about, because what we're talking about here is no longer avoiding, right?
Yes.
So
Right.
if we're thinking about, as Black women, that we're taking charge now and we're coming out of the avoidance. So what's one step that we can start taking as Black women to stop
Mhm.
avoiding. So if there's a Black woman watching right now and
Mhm.
she is like, oh, this job, I'm just so sick of it. I'm so
Yeah.
sick of it. But, I keep telling myself I can't afford to leave this job.
Yeah.
What's one small step she can start taking?
So
One small step she can start
yeah.
doing?
One small step that is difficult. I want to preface it that it is difficult.
Uh-huh.
Maybe easy to say, not always easy to do. But it's very important to like just track your spending, right? And so what I normally tell people to do is look back at maybe at least 1 month of where your money has gone, right? So um, we're in the holiday season currently, but if we were to look maybe like, at a normal month, maybe November was a normal month, or maybe it was, October, that was a normal month for you, and just look at your bank statement. That's it, right? We're just going to only look at your bank statement, and we're going to notice like, where's your money going? Right. And I always tell people that this is a mindfulness activity. Mindfulness, meaning that I'm just starting to observe, I'm starting to notice, right? I'm not judging where I've decided to place my money. It's not a judgment exercise. It is just a
Mhm.
mindfulness exercise. I need to understand where my money is going, because once you can understand that, then you can make different choices on where your money is going, right? So you can,
Mhm.
if you were to pull up your bank statement, and maybe get some highlighters, different color highlighters for to make it more exciting or something. The first thing you want to do is maybe highlight what are the things that just don't change, right? Your mortgage, your rent payments not going to change, your car notes not going to change, maybe the car insurance not going to change. Those are things that are considered fixed expenses, right? You just start noticing what those are, right? Then you might go back and look at some things that are variable expenses, which just means that there are things that shift throughout the month, in some type of way, right? Maybe like your energy bill is not the same all the time, right? We're going into a colder month, so maybe you're using a heater a lot more. So that's more of a variable cost, but something that we have to go ahead and take care of. But then there's some like other things that I would consider more like miscellaneous things. And that could be maybe like how much you're eating out, right? Those are things that's like you have to eat, right? So we're going to have a food budget, but we're not going to necessarily need to do DoorDash all the time, right? So you start noticing
Right.
that kind of stuff. Or you start noticing I'm constantly going to fast food restaurants. And I
Mhm.
could have cooked, right? Like spaghetti would have handled it, like, but I decided to do something different. So you start to look at those things that are like opportunities, and so those are like opportunity costs because those can change. You even
Mhm.
look at the gym membership that maybe you've been paying for and you haven't been going. Opportunity, right? Like maybe you look at subscriptions. You're subscribed to certain things and you're not even really using those things.
Mhm.
Or some things are duplicates. Like a lot of times I'll see people might like pay for Spotify and Apple Music, right? Like they're doing the same thing. You don't need both of them, right? Like so you have things that are duplicates in your life. So you kind of start looking at those opportunities. And once you kind of understand what those opportunities are, you can, slowly but surely start to change those things around,
Mhm.
right? So maybe your dining out budget, like we were saying earlier, instead of going from 5 days, it's going down to 3 days. So then you're like, wow, I'm saving an extra $60, $70 a week, right?
Mhm.
Now we
Mhm.
multiply that by four. You know what I mean? We have a couple of $100 that
Mhm.
were saved from that opportunity of just taking the time to look at what the numbers actually said, right? And once we actually see that and we see that there's money available, now what you do with this money matters, right? So now that you have it, that's why we open up a savings account if you don't already have one. I tell people high yield savings accounts are usually the best opportunity ones, right?
Mhm.
Because they're going to give you a little bit better interest. And what you start to do is make sure that money that's the opportunity cost starts to go into a savings account. But you even start thinking about this savings account as my exit account, right? Like, it's going to be the thing that's going to prepare me and make me feel more comfortable and more confident to have a choice. It doesn't mean you have to leave your job, but now you at least have a choice on if that comes up that you can leave your job, you know,
Right. And you're planning,
and you're
right?
planning, right,
And right. So it's not like you're immediately leaving, but
right.
you're planning for options,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's what we're talking about is options.
Yes.
So you talked earlier about like maybe this is not a good month because of Christmas season, but
Yeah,
many of us are practicing the blackout right
that's
now,
true.
right?
Yes, right.
So, what about for those of us who are practicing the blackout? What would you
Mhm.
say in terms of any financial tips for Black women who want to leave a toxic job, but they're practicing the blackout right now? Any financial tips
I mean,
for
I think
Black
that
women?
that's amazing, right? So if you're sticking with the blackout, okay, like this is if you are right, like so, if you're sticking with the blackout, imagine how much money you're really saving during this season. I mean, people spend a ton of money during this season in so many different aspects, right? Whether it's just going to multiple parties, getting prepared for the party, got to pay, buy an outfit for the party, all of that, right? Along with, giving things to your children and family members and overcompensating because you're the one with the good job, whatever it may be that's going on as well.
Uh-huh.
There should be tons of savings, right? Make sure you're redirecting that money to savings and not to something else,
Yeah.
right? So you just have to be very aware of like what's happening. You know what I mean? Even if your mind starts to think, I think this would be a cool activity just popped in my mind. But if you start thinking about who would you buy something for, right? Like, oh, I got to get something, for my auntie. Like, well, how much would you have spent on her? Actually, take the time to really think what kind of gift would you may have gotten her, and how much would you spend? Like, oh, I'd at least spend $50. Then you can say that $50, let me go and put it in my savings right now, right? Like, so you can actually like have a number and an idea placed into your savings of what you're doing. I think
Uh-huh.
it's also time to be creative of how do you spend time with people without having to give a gift, right? Because you
Mhm.
can make valuable experiences and quality experiences with people, and gifts don't have to be a part of it. Probably gifts are
Sure.
not honestly like the best quality experience that we've ever given people, right?
Sure.
But you can start to think about like what would that be, even if it's just maybe you normally pay for this auntie a gift and never talk to her, but maybe I decide to give myself an hour, like to actually spend time, listen to her old stories about life or whatever it may be. That may be what I'm giving her, right? I'm giving
Right.
her time versus like an actual monetary gift,
Yeah.
So I think those things could really help. And it should be starting your new year with a lot of options because you should
Yes.
have a lot of savings at this
Yes.
point.
And I want us to share a golden nugget that is one of the golden nuggets because there's so
Mhm.
many golden nuggets masterclass. One of the golden nuggets from the financial masterclass that you share with participants is a high yield savings account.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So you talked about savings account, and I just want the audience to be clear. She's not talking about a regular savings account. She's talking about
Yeah.
a high yield savings account. So can you briefly share one of the
Yeah.
golden nuggets from the financial
Yes.
masterclass? What's the difference between a savings account and a high yield savings account?
Yes. So, like a regular savings account tends to give you an interest rate of like 0.0001%, right? Like barely making
Mhm.
pennies on your money. And so a lot of us are like taught to like go get a credit union because the credit union is going to be better, right? And if you go look at your credit union is tending to give you maybe 0.5%, right? So a little bit more, like that's like making 50 cents on your money. But then a high yield savings account, right? I like to spell it like high, HIGH, right? Yield is YIELD account, a high yield savings account. They're giving anywhere between 3 to 5% on your money, which means like making $3 to $5 on your money, which is a big deal, right? So you start noticing that money growing a lot faster because it's in a high yield savings account. And you guys can Google like what's the best high yield savings account of 2025 or something like that. They might even have the 2026 list already available. But you just Google it, and there'll be multiple that'll come up. I like to tell people like certain ones that are a little bit more common, like Capital One, American Express, SoFi. There's different ones that are out there, Marcus. So there's different ones that are out there, and sometimes we don't like if you go and Google, you may see a lot of them, but you're probably going to be like, you're not familiar with them. And so a lot of times, if you're not familiar, you tend to not want to put your money where you're not familiar. They are often usually FDIC insured. So, do your research and feel what's comfortable, or just choose a more familiar one that, I've heard of Capital One, I've heard of American Express, and choose to put your money there. Yeah.
Mhm. Thank you. Okay, that's one of the nuggets, one of the
Yeah.
nuggets. So I also heard you say about, finding an accountability partner, right?
Yes.
So sometimes we might choose an accountability partner, but it might not quite be a good accountability partner,
Right.
right? So can you give us some tips about choosing, or what are the qualities that we need to look out for a good financial accountability partner? What are the qualities that we should look out for?
Yeah. I mean, so it's amazing if you pick or choose a friend or coworker or something like that who's also trying to save, right?
Uh-huh.
So somebody who at least has the motivation to do the same. That'll be
Yeah.
number one, right?
Yeah.
We want at least that person has the motivation to do the same. But you also want to understand who are you tend to be more accountable to, right? If your friendship is too close, right,
Uh-huh.
and it's very easy for you guys to distract each other and get you guys off the track, meaning like it can be an each other situation, right? So be like, girl, I should say, would you? I really wish that we could go out, girl. Let's just save tomorrow. If that's your
Oh,
friend, then that's not a good friend for accountability at this particular point. Okay,
no.
we need somebody who's going to say, I would love to go out. We would normally go out. Girl, let's go ahead and put this money in our high yield savings. Like for them to think like how much, where would we have gone? Oh, we would have went to brunch to this place. We would have had a mimosa. We would have had it. We would have spent $100. Open up your account, girl, and let's go ahead and put $100 into our savings account, right? That is the kind of accountability partner that you're looking for, right? Somebody who is even educating themselves, gaining more knowledge about what they should be doing differently, right?
Uh-huh.
Very important for that you have an account, excuse me. Sorry, guys. An accountability like check-in, right? So once a week, like you guys need to have a specific time that your guys are dedicating the way that y'all used to go to brunch or the way that y'all go to lunch. Like it needs to be a dedicated time for you guys to pay attention to your money together. Right. They call it like with kids, it's called like parallel play when like a kid is playing next to each other. It's kind of the same thing. Sometimes you ever like co-worked with a friend where like they're doing something completely different, but you guys are in the same space. It helps you to work better. So even if you guys get on Zoom together and one of you guys are looking at their own personal finances and they're looking at their own personal finances, it's just giving time for you guys to do that and encourage each other. It's something that you also, should do as well. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay. So let's talk about the financial masterclass.
All right.
So the financial masterclass is coming up January 14th and 15th. So I have it scrolling across the screen. It'll also be in the description section of this video in terms of getting your ticket. Okay. So let's talk about what are some of the things that we're going to do this together.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm going to be talking about more of the mindset issues and some of the options that we have in terms of looking at options for, exploring different things to replace your income.
Mhm.
But can you talk about what you're going to be talking about in relation to a financial exit plan, which is priceless? So can you
Yeah.
share with the audience what you're going to be teaching during the financial masterclass?
Yeah, so of course, give you some knowledge, like some knowledge that you may or may not know. Maybe need some reminders of how to like save, like how to like understand your debt, how to understand. One of the biggest areas for most people is like, well, what am I do about benefits? Like, so what can we do around health insurance benefits? What can we do around life insurance benefits? What do I do about my like previous 401k that was at that job? How do I continue to have a retirement? We educate on that. We talk about like a financial timeline, like what are the steps to get prepared, right, for leaving, right? So, we break it down to like if you need to leave immediately, what are the steps that you need to do for immediate leaving, right? But if you have a little bit more time, if you're like, I have 6 months, this is what you should do at the 6 month mark. And then like if you have a year, if you're like, okay, I can give myself a year or more, right? Maybe you're not ready to leave completely, but you want to be prepared for if that option comes up, right? Then we kind of give you those steps. So we kind of break it down to like exactly the different things that you need to do to get prepared, right? Of course, we also talk about, how to replace the income because that's a big deal, right? We need to figure out how do we use some of these skills and talents that we have that we're using
Mhm.
for other people to make money, right? How do we help
True.
ourselves make money as well in the class? So we kind of really cover like a lot of really from A to Z. What are the things, even of course, mindset. Dr. Kamani like covers like mindset, fears,
Mhm.
that that you need to kind of remember. Like we're trying to, wanting you
Mhm.
to understand, hey, it's time to leave. How do you deal with those fears? And then I give more practical steps. So, we give practical steps. We do even have a vision. So we talk about your vision because I think it's very hard to get somewhere if we don't even have like a picture of what that somewhere is going to look like. So we start to develop that vision picture of our future first.
Mhm.
And then that leads us to being able to implement the practical skills, right? So sometimes I
Mhm.
think it's hard to implement if you don't really uncover the fear and figure out ways to cope with the fear, and you don't develop the vision. We can't even get to the level of practical skills implementation. Doesn't matter,
Mhm.
you can know something and not do something all the time, right? And so
Right.
that's why we really covered it, where the psychological aspect is heavy as well as the practical skills are heavy.
True. 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 So again, this is something that when I worked with Dr. Rosché was key to me being able to leave the toxic job,
Mhm.
because if I did not have a financial exit plan, I would have not felt or known that I had an option in terms of how to replace my income. So it
Yes.
was pivotal for me to work with her. And once I was able to replace my income, I was like deuces with that job, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
resigned and I'm doing so much better for it.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, because I was able to liberate myself, my thought was, how
Yeah.
do I help liberate other Black women? And
Right.
so that was my mission and my drive to collaborate with Dr. Roche to do the financial masterclass. I think how many have we done?
No,
We,
I think it's either our fourth or fifth one.
yeah, so we've done a
I'm
number
going.
of
Yeah,
these. Yes,
it's been many times at this point,
yes,
like, that we've done it. And I mean,
yes, we've done a number of
I
them.
think it's incredible. And so Dr. Kamani is just incredible to me anyway, because I can recall us working together, right? And good. Now let me tell you one thing about her that I want everybody to um encouraged to be like, right? She also was an executor, right? And I do think that it's important, like, to not just learn things, but to execute what you learn, right? And so she did execute the things, even then when it's uncomfortable, right? Even if we had to
Ooh,
talk
makes
through
it
the
uncomfortable.
discomfort, she still executed, right? And so I think that's what we all want to make sure that we do is like learn and execute, and even the way that we set up the class is, it's 2 days. So day one, we give you some stuff to do, and we tell you to execute to get prepared for day two, right?
Right.
And then for the next step, which is kind of post class, is that we give an opportunity where I meet with you one on one as well in the class. And so now you have homework from the day two, so you can get prepared to have that individual call that is included in the package with me as
Yeah,
well, right? So that
yeah,
you're in a better position to be able to execute and make that plan, more yours, and feel like you have some accountability to make that happen. So I think that's
yeah.
important. But the other extra thing about like Dr. Kamani is like, when you learn, don't keep it to yourself, right? Like,
That's true.
share with other people. Like, so even if
Yes.
you're on here and you're like, I'm already at a good job and I don't need this class, but do you know somebody who needs this class, right? Like, share that
Yeah.
information. Don't be a
True.
gatekeeper of good stuff, right? I think that's so important. Like most people, like, we sometimes we gatekeep unintentionally, right? We think
Mhm.
people don't want to hear this, or they don't have time for this. But it's not true. Like a lot of us are like looking for somebody to help us out of this area of suffering that we're in, right? We're suffering in silence,
Yeah,
so we're looking for somebody to support us. And
yeah.
so sometimes you need to just continuously share information and liberate others, right? You can be an example of liberation, and then help liberate others through the process, right? So
Agreed, agreed.
yeah.
And unfortunately, most of us know of another Black woman, at least two other
Right.
Black women who's in a
And he
toxic
called you to
job.
complain today.
And she's stuck because of finances,
Hmm.
right? That's usually the main issue that keeps her stuck.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so this is an option for Black women. And then also, let me just say this. Dr. Rosché got some magic powers, okay? Because when I tell you, if she can help me look at money, that is phenomenal because I have avoided looking at money for so long. But if she can get me to look at some money, that is absolutely amazing. The other thing is she makes the financial masterclass fun. Like we are laughing, we are dancing,
Yes.
we got music during the financial masterclass. It is literally fun. I'm not lying. It is fun.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Now, the financial masterclass is presented via Zoom webinar.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the participants are not seen. The only people on camera are me and Dr. Roche. And we're doing that for privacy considerations. Okay. Because people who are leaving a toxic job oftentimes don't want other people to know they're leaving a toxic job, no matter when they're trying to leave. Okay. So, privacy consideration, we have it Zoom webinar. So, no one will know that you are in the class. You can change your name on the platform. You will not be on camera. Okay. But it is fun. Okay. You with other
Yes.
Black women. We got music. We are just,
Yes.
we're having a
I mean,
good
people are
time.
active in the chat. People are supportive of each
Yes.
other. We know everybody changes
Yes.
their names to like initials, so no one knows who they are. But
Yes.
a lot of support. There's a couple of like testimonials that recently had asked people a bit. The people have changed. I mean, their lives, right? Like,
Yes.
the great thing is that it is 2 days and an extra session with me. But remember, like, you're going to continuously be supported by the information throughout your life,
Yes.
right? Because there's a
Yes.
shift that is going to happen. There's one woman I think of. She started saying, "Ooh, I can start saving," and she started saving for a house and different things of that sort, and ended up purchasing in another country. Okay, like what? So got a whole like retirement property, right? Another person, so some of us, know that maybe coming down the pipeline that there might be some shifts. We talk about the 300,000 women who have been laid off this year. And
Yeah.
so you may feel that there's some type of energy at your job as well. And another woman was also left her job. Not left her job. She didn't leave. She was thinking it was a toxic job, but the job offered her a severance package to leave, right? But
Mhm.
because of the master class, she felt more comfortable to manage the severance package to be able to leave and depart from the job in a confident way, right?
Mhm.
And then able to explore, her other like skill sets, that,
Yeah.
she was doing something completely different. Now she's teaching, and she was like, I always wanted to teach, and so now she's able to do something that she hadn't done before, and then there's some people who have actually stayed at their jobs. And this one woman, she was like, but I learned how to approach the job differently. Right. So I'm there, but I don't allow them, like, I'm able to hold different boundaries.
Oh,
And I don't have to I'm not in a position where I have to, do everything that they tell me to do. Right. I'm able to cut off at a certain time, so now the job doesn't feel as toxic because I've learned to not be as toxic to myself within the job.
oh,
Right.
wow.
And so I was like, oh, that was good. Right. Like just getting that test. I was like, that's to me is even that shift in your mindset, even if you're not physically leaving the job, you're able to handle the job differently as well,
Yeah. Yeah. The job is not controlling you.
You exactly. Right. So I thought that was I was like, oh, this is good. I was like, I'm taking that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. And
so
then
yeah.
you tell me you were somewhere and this woman was said she like recognized you or something?
Yes. I mean, you guys may all know, but I speak a lot. I'm always like going somewhere to do different talks around financial, wellness and different things. And I actually did a talk at someone's house, and it was a lot of people there. So it wasn't just like a regular home with like, a couple people, but it was like a whole party around like money manifestation. And then the woman gives a testimony at the actual event that she's like, yeah, so I had to come here to see you because I already knew you. I saw you and Dr. Kamani at the job liberation, the financial masterclass. I already took that with you guys. And I was like, oh, she gave the best testimony, and I wasn't even expecting it. Okay. And I didn't know that she knew me already. I thought she knew me from this space, but she knew me from the financial masterclass, and I haven't taken it yet.
Wow.
So I thought that was like so powerful that she had did some big stuff,
Yeah.
from being a part of it. you know?
Yeah. And I remember one of the participants said, I took it before, but the next time you offer it, I'm gonna take it again. I
Yes,
was
yeah.
like,
Right, because
wow, okay.
you're at different. I think it's a spectrum of where people are around their toxic job, right? You may be in the early
Right.
signs of it, and you're like, hey, let me go ahead and check the financial masterclass out to get some skills. Now, remember, these are skills that at work, even if you're not at the toxic job, right? Even if
True.
you're not ready to leave, there's still going to be positive things that everybody needs really to get their money right, right? So
Right.
that's going to already happen. But then you might get to a point in your job where you're like, oh, it's time to get out of here. Let me get a refresher. Right. And
Right.
so then that's when, you know, replays and different things like that help as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So if there's a black woman watching right now, well, let me say this right quick. The fact that first of all, I don't know if any other master classes does this,
Mhm,
so I
mhm.
think that that's something. But the fact that you offer like a one-to-one with
Right.
participants too,
Yeah.
like that is like a huge bonus.
Yes. Yeah.
Like when I think about how much extra amount of money that that would normally
Cost
cost,
exactly. Right. Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're able to dive. I mean, how more prepared you are, right? The better you're going to get from that session. And that's why having gone to the masterclass first makes you more prepared to be able to meet with me, and I'm able to bop 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 give you something that you need to move forward
Yeah.
a lot faster as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
So if there's a black woman watching right now, Dr. Rosché, and
Mhm.
she's saying to herself, "Oh man, I just really want to leave, but I just can't afford it." And you all are talking about this financial master class. You all are talking about that, but it's just not that easy. It's
Mhm.
just not I'm a single parent, or
Mhm.
I can't think about leaving this job. Yeah, I can't even think about leaving it. What would you
Mhm.
say to her?
Yeah, I mean, for one thing, I'm gonna validate your experience, right? I mean, it's not easy, right? It's never gonna be easy to make, like, to shift to the next level of your life. It's not gonna be easy in order to like make a change, because we can get so familiar and like, even in toxicity, right? Toxicity can be so familiar to us that you can just stick with it, right? And we get, more comfortable with. I think you always say like the devil we know versus the devil we don't
Oh,
know, right?
right.
Kind of thing. And so I think so. For we understand, right? That is, it's not easy, but we
Yeah.
want to start to even do things that are not easy because we don't want to stay in what also is not easy, right? Which
Right.
is being at the toxic job, you
Right.
know. And if you think about yourself, like if you, there's, we're saying like the cost of not doing it, think to yourself in the next 5 years, how would you feel if your life was still right here at the same place? Right. And
Mhm.
a lot of us like, wait, I don't want to be the same place 5 years from now. Right. But
Mhm.
if we don't make any changes now, then you'll be the same place 5 years from now in the same
Mhm.
struggle and the same, feelings of discomfort, probably magnified at that point because you haven't done what's right to by yourself to change. And so what you want to do is just you want to take the time to say, okay, I just want to get information, right? And I want to apply a little bit of information, and once I apply a little bit and see, hey, how does that help me, right? Whether it's a mindset shift, just a psychological thing, how does that help? Right? What if I like just
Mhm.
apply, the blackout right now, right? And I start saving more, like how does that help? And what if I, bet on myself and I decide like, hey, let me, join the financial master class. And the financial master class gives you more skill sets to start to just practice, you
Mhm.
know. And so then that just gets you it just starts to build the confidence that you're in need of, right? To start making changes, right? It doesn't make you feel as fearful as like, I'm a single mom and I can't. You're like, oh, I'm a
Mhm.
single mom and I can do all these other things as well.
Mhm.
Right. And
Mhm.
so we kind of expand your thinking versus keeping you in that limited state that you've been in for so long.
Right, right. And the point is about planning,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
not the thought of just immediately just up and leaving, right? The thought is
Right.
that we are planning for things. The hope is that we don't have to abruptly do anything unless there's an
Yes.
emergency.
Yes.
Okay. So when we think about these different things, if there's a black woman who's on the fence, right?
Yeah.
She's like, okay, this sounds good. I don't
Hmm.
know. She's on the fence.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say? What would you say to her? She's on the fence. What would you say to her about the
Um,
financial class?
yeah, somewhat same. I understand that you're on the fence, but you want something different, right? Like, so you always have to this is why having financial vision or just casting vision of your life anyway. We're moving into a new year. And oftentimes it's when we start to think about a new self or a better version of ourselves. And you just want to make sure that you develop a supportive team, supportive information to make sure you could become that better version. Right. And so you think to yourself, like, what are the things that I'm going to need in order to do that? And if that aligns with what we're like talking about within this class, then you definitely want to, join the class. That's why we kind of do this at the top of the year, because we know
Mhm.
that that's the time that we're starting to consider and to think about better versions of ourselves, giving
Mhm.
ourselves a good running start for the new year,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I wanted to say something before I read the community chat because I
Mhm.
remember when I first started this channel, and very rarely do I get these comments now, but when
Uh-huh.
I first started the channel, I would get these comments like, um, "Oh, what, you just want us to just up and leave these jobs? Not everybody is able to just up and leave a job. We got bills to pay."
Uh-huh.
And that's why I, have been so direct with saying, I have never told anybody to just up and leave a job. I have been very clear about I'm talking about planning to leave a job, right?
Yeah.
And talking about replacing income. So, what would you say to Black women who have like that immediate response, right? When you start talking about planning to leave a job
Yeah.
and their immediate response is, well, not everybody can just up and leave a job. We got bills to pay, right?
Yeah.
Like, what would you say to those Black women if you say, let's start talking about creating a financial exit plan, and they're like, well, not everybody can do that.
Right. Yeah. Um, Watch yourself, right? I just like in my brain is like, because I want you to watch yourself if you notice yourself that you're in a pattern of negativity. Because I think that sometimes, it slips up on us that you
Mhm.
find yourself pessimistic, right? You're negative about everything that's like approaching you, and everything that you see it with like a negative lens. And so I just like in those moments, I'm just like, be careful, right? Because where else are you doing that? It's not just for this class, right? You're doing it in other areas as well. And so, if you feel yourself saying that and that's your initial reaction, you know what I mean? Like, catch yourself and start to say, like, well, okay, well, how could this be helpful to other people? Right? Let me listen for that, like from a positive lens, right? Do I have that ability to be
Mhm.
able to see things from a positive lens at this point? Because seeing it from a negative lens speaks to how the toxicity has like come in, you know what I mean? At that
Right.
deep level. That's why you're feeling it that way. I don't know why this pops in my head, but when people like get kidnapped and stuff like that, and we talk about Stockholm syndrome, where you get to this point sometimes like where you like start taking on like such like you get so enmeshed with even the kidnapper. It's almost the same thing. You're so enmeshed with the toxic environment. I don't know why this popped into my head like this. That you like start to take on what they believe about you, right? And believe what they want you to
Yeah.
want, the stuck thought process that they want you to keep. They want you to
Yeah.
feel like there's no other options and you have to stay here, right? And
Yeah.
take the salary that they gave you. Like that,
Yeah.
they're doing that to you. And now you have become that. You have now enmeshed yourself with what they're trying to do to you, right? And
Yeah.
so you
And
want
then
to
you
break
attack
that.
anybody
Yeah,
who's trying to tell you about options.
yes, yeah. Like there's other things that are available to you. So I just feel like, just watch yourself. If you find yourself in that kind of state of negativity, your initial
Yeah.
reaction is negative, to start to think about it. Because we're not telling you to up and leave. Up and leave gives
Right.
the thought process of like immediate make a move, you know what I mean, and be
Reckless.
homeless, right? Like and be
Yeah.
reckless. That's not what we're telling you. That's
Right.
planning is the key, right? That's why we're telling you planning. And you want to get this planning in order, because what can happen to you is that the toxic level of this job will make you want to leave like that one day and you won't be prepared,
Right.
right? And so we're
Exactly.
trying to say, let's get prepared. So you have the option to make a choice to stay or leave. It's up to you, right? But
Right.
at least you'll be in a state of option place and not in obligation state, you know?
And reactionary, right? So
Yeah.
if it does get to the point where you're like, I just want to be done, you're like, oh my God, I have no options
Absolutely.
prepared for myself. I haven't
Right.
planned for anything, right? So
Yes.
the other thing is what seems to kind of strike me is that when people have that attitude of, oh, you just want, it feels very dismissive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they're just trying to like reject, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm not
Yes.
even going to consider what you're saying, right? And
Hmm.
it's like, okay, well, if you want to think that way, that's what you want to think, but
Yeah.
don't assume that everybody wants to think like you
No.
think.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Don't
if
block
you want
somebody
to be
else's blessing because you want
closed-minded,
your blessings to be blocked. You
right?
can't.
Right. That's you. Do you,
Yeah.
boo? But not everybody wants to think that way,
Yes.
right? Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So we're going to read the community chat and then we're going to wind down. And everybody, I'm putting the information about the financial masterclass in the chat as well. And then I'll
Hmm.
put it again in the description section of the YouTube video. Okay. And it's also going across the screen. So I see you, Cynthia. Hey, happy holidays, sisters. Peace and peace, joy and peace be with you all. That's beautiful. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Let's see. Thank you, ladies, for all the work you do. Thank you. I'm about to go through the process to buy a profitable business that's already cash flowing. I feel that's my only way out from my 9 to 5 and gives me my time back. Okay, do
Okay.
your thing.
Big
Okay.
time.
Sometimes entrepreneurship is the way to go, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
again, looking at options, right? Gift
Yeah.
of time is beautiful. Yes. Good evening. God bless. Yes. Yes, ma'am. I have the high yield savings account.
Good.
Good. Ally Bank has a good high yield one last
Hmm.
year.
Yeah. I like good.
Financial accountability partner. Love that accountability check-ins. Okay. So
Yeah.
it sounds like people are starting to think about accountability, financial,
Yes.
right? Let's think about our liberation with finances because we think about money, even though many people don't like to talk about money,
Hmm.
money has so much impact on our emotional and
It
our
so does.
physical
Yes.
health, right?
Yes.
So it's important for us to keep this in mind. And again, the financial masterclass talks about our options and what we
Hmm.
can do to get unstuck from toxic jobs because many times we think about money and finances, that is often what keeps us stuck at a
Yes.
toxic job. So if you are a Black woman and you are feeling stuck at a toxic job because of, I don't know how to replace my income, I
Hmm.
don't know how I'm going to pay my bills, I don't know what I'm going to do about my benefits, my health insurance, my retirement, then you need to
Hmm.
come to the financial masterclass. So the financial masterclass is January 14th and 15th. Let's see, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Pacific time. Zoom webinars.
Hmm.
You will not be seen on camera. Only Dr. Rosché and I will be on camera. By the time you leave the financial masterclass, you will have a financial exit plan.
Yes.
And then, bonus, you will have one to one time with Dr. Rosché, who,
Yeah.
again, is a financial psychologist.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
She
We
is
offer the
the,
replay
she,
and we give a little booklet
oh, and
as well.
workbook.
So yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
You
as
have a
well.
workbook.
So you have something
Yeah.
tangible to leave with as well.
Yes. And let me say, Dr. Financial, she is the financial masterclass who helped me create my financial exit plan. And even though we're talking about money, it might seem heavy, but I'm telling you, it is fun. You are in
Yes.
a community with other Black women. This is only for Black women. You are with other Black women, and we are coming together to learn, to uplift, to support one another, and to have fun. Literally
Yes.
to have fun. Okay. So again, information is in the description section, going across the screen and in the chat. And as Dr. Roche said, if this is not for you, please share this with other Black women. I
Hmm.
know that you know another Black woman who is
Yes.
in a toxic job and who feels stuck because of her concern about finances. So
Hmm.
please share this video with at least two other Black women. Okay. So as I'm winding down, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do so. It is absolutely free. Okay. No fee involved with subscribing to my YouTube channel. Turn the notification bell so you know when I go live or when I upload a video. And please give this video a thumbs up. I want to say again, thank you to my guest, Dr. Roche. And I hope that you will see us at the Financial Masterclass. We won't see you because, again, you won't be on camera. And I will see you all later. Oh, any last words, Dr. Rosché? Any last words you want to
Um,
say to everybody?
no last words. I saw one comment that says it sounds good, even if you're not at a toxic job, right?
Yeah,
And yes, that is so true. So
yeah.
it's good regardless of if you're at a toxic job.
Oh, I got another question.
Yeah.
What about, because this has come up too, what
Mhm.
about if somebody's already left their job?
So even when people leave their job, they're often not necessarily prepared on like what to do with all those things, like health insurance, life insurance, uh, uh, rolling over their money. They still don't even know how to do those things, right? Or even to be still prepared in, what they should be doing with their lives, right? Like, how do I like start that business or develop another stream of income? So we still are going to cover things that's necessary for people, even if they're gone from their jobs
Yeah.
as well. So yeah, we've had people who actually have been, not at their jobs, and they have been a part of the financial masterclass as well.
So it's for all Black women.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. So everyone, thank you again for watching. And again, register for the Financial Masterclass and share this with at least 2 other Black women. Okay. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you later. Bye.